Okay, so a very big welcome to all of the attendees. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to come to the webinar. Really important part of the Activate programme, and we're really looking forward to telling you a little bit about some of the stuff that's happening, some of the things that we need you to support on, and also just really some guidance around how you can get the most out of this really exciting grant scheme. So just a brief introduction. So my name is Jeff Baxter. So I'm part of the Smarter Society team. So you may be wondering what we do, and we're the administrators of the grant scheme on behalf of the West Midlands Combined Authority, and it's the West Midlands Combined Authority that have made all of the decisions around the grants, and it's the West Midlands Combined Authority that have selected the grant awardees to receive the funding and do all the fantastic things that you're doing. So so this program is a really exciting one. If you look at arts and culture funding across the country, this is really quite a unique program. So the fact that you have been selected for this is this is not luck. This is down to really cracking applications. So well done, and we're really looking forward to helping you to get the most out of your grant. So just a little summary of what we're going to be going through today. So the introduction, well, that's happening right now. So and then what I'm going to be moving on to is to just talk a little bit about what we need you to do next once you've got the CPD work that you were planning to do. Once that's completed, what we need you to make sure that you complete, so that then we can do the other important task that we've got, which is to make the second and final payment to you of your grant award, which will conclude the payment process. And just to give you an understanding of what's important, particularly around the timelines of that, because we are under a really tight timeline for this grant scheme, which I think you are all very aware of. What I'll then be doing is I'm going to introduce you to our guest speaker from Culture Central, and I'll talk you through that, and then you'll hear from Charlene, and she's going to give you some really interesting insights into how best to utilise CPD and what sort of other opportunities out there for you. I'm then going to talk to you about a face-to-face event that we've got next week, which is a networking event just close in Birmingham, in the centre of Birmingham, and so that's available for all of the award winners, all the grant awardees to attend. Really great opportunity to network with other local arts and culture professionals, and an opportunity for you to actually meet the team and ask questions in person. So that's something that we'd really like to see people coming along to. It's completely free, and then we'll give you all the details around that. And then what we'll do is we'll open up for Q&A. So for those of you that haven't been to a Zoom webinar before, there is a Q&A button, and you can add question and answers into the system. We will either try and answer them at the end. We may be able to answer them. So some of the team are kind of backstage and may be able to answer them on the fly. So you'll see the responses come in there. If we don't answer questions in there, then what we'll do is we'll send around a summary afterwards. Okay, so just looking into that. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the reporting requirements. And one of the key things is that is really important is just around making sure that the expenditure that you are making, that you are providing and developing suitable reporting to make sure that you've got all of the records, so that when you come to submit your final records, you've got that information, you've got that summary, and you've got those receipts available. So you need to make sure that any expenditure that you're making is recorded within the sheet that has been sent out. That has been sent to every awardee. And what we will do is we will also be making sure that we send out another copy of that after this webinar. So that will come out to your email address. You can do that. If you do have any questions, We will put up the email address for any questions at the end, but it is WMCA@smartersociety.org. So we will make sure that that's shared. You will have received emails from that email address already. But that's how we'll communicate that. You need to make sure that when you are making expenditure, that for any expenditure above £100, that you have a receipt. So that's an individual expenditure of £100. So for example, if you were buying a piece of equipment and that equipment is £120, you must have a receipt which is submitted, and that will be part of your reporting requirements. Okay, and so what you want to do with that is that as part of your financial records will be that you will submit the sheet with all of the expenditure details on that, and that's every bit of expense. And then also you will have the pack of receipts, which you can just do photographs and just put that into a folder and send that over on email. Okay, as soon as the funded activity is completed, please submit those final packs, because as soon as you do that, what we can then do is we can review that, and then once it's reviewed, that is a key step in completing your final records and evaluation, and then obviously we can make payments for that. So for individual expenses under £100, or for any payments that are made as a result of effectively loss of income. So if you put within your grant request that you were going to spend some of the grant on paying yourself because you weren't able to work, you are not required to provide receipts for that, but you are required to outline it in your expenditure reporting. Okay. So what we do recognise is that with the grant schemes, there may be needs to make modifications to your spending plans. So for example, an example of this is that if you were planning to go on a training course, but then as a result, once the grant had been paid, you found out that the training course was full, so you decided so you need to make a modification to your spending plans, then you can make those modifications. However, you do need to make sure that your change to the spending plan is in line with your grant award request. Okay, so you need to review the guidelines, check your grant agreement to consider any sort of changes with that. If you do have any changes, you've got to keep detailed records of that. So for example, you may, using the example of a training course, you may say, well, this training course was full, so you use the money to go on another training course which is on the same subject. It's a different training course, it may have a slightly different cost, and then you can highlight the details with that. If there is an underspend on that, you can then look to repurpose the money again, but it also has to be in line with your grant approval request. If there is an overspend, you will not be given any further funding from your grant award. Okay, you must keep detailed record around that. What you cannot do is that you cannot make changes to your expenditure that is outside of your grant award. Okay, so for example, if you had proposed to spend the money on a training course and you have subsequently decided that you have to spend the money on a piece of equipment, that is outside of your grant award, and that is not permitted within the change process. If you do have any questions around this, then you can send your queries to WMCA@smartersociety.org. We will publish the email address at the end, and you can just outline the change that you're proposing, and then we'll let you know if that's appropriate or not. And then the same goes, even if you're making adjustments to your spending plan, you just need to make sure that you're monitoring the spending, track the expenditure, put it into the expenditure sheet. And if you're doing that on a regular basis, then it's a much easier task at the end to make sure that it all adds up, to send it over, and then to get the approval so that we can make your final payment. So there are two parts to the final process before we can make the final payment. Number one, I've just talked through, which is the expenditure summary and the receipts. The second one is the evaluation survey, and the evaluation survey is a really important part of this grant process because it measures the success and the impact that the funding has had to you and to the whole community of arts and culture professionals across the West Midlands, so that we can really see what this money has achieved. Helps us to understand requirements within the sector, so that we can start to think, or that rather the Combined Authority can be thinking about what sort of programmes in the future will be relevant. And it also helps to inform decisions. So it's really important because future programmes which you can benefit from will be based around the feedback that we get from this evaluation survey. And the completion of this evaluation survey is a mandatory requirement for you to receive your second payment for the grant award. So it's an important thing to do. So just in terms of that is going to be on a survey tool. It's called Zoho Survey, and it's a very simple survey tool. It's online. You can access that through a laptop or a phone or a tablet, really simple. And we will be sending that link out to every single grant award winner after this webinar. The sooner that you do that evaluation survey, the better, because what we will do is that as part of the sign-off, we will be checking that we've received a response from you. So if you're able to do that as soon as possible, then that's another good task done. Okay, so just to summarise, before I introduce Charlene, just to summarise the reporting requirements, we need to see a summary of all of your expenditure. And we need receipts for all individual expenses over £100. If you're making any changes to your grant, then you need to make sure that they are in line with your grant approval, your grant agreement, and also that you've documented those. So that's clear. And then in terms of making sure that we are able to make the final payments, we need to see your grant expenditure report, and we also need to make sure that you have completed your evaluation survey. We are now at the point where we are starting to already receive expenditure reports for completed CPD from awardees. We want to make sure that we receive those as early as possible. Okay, so the deadline for that is the 13th of December. You must have provided your response by the 13th of December, but don't think that that you need to wait until the 13th of December. We are now ready to make to complete all of the expenditure evaluation and also to review the evaluation surveys. So once you've completed both of those, we will make that payment. So as soon as you're ready to do that, make sure that that's submitted. That means that we can get that process completed. And we can get you paid your second payment as soon as possible. Okay, so yep, so that's that. Sorry, that's all detailed in there. So yeah, the final 20%, and it's just outlined in there. So that should be really clear about that. Any questions? You can send them into WMCA at Smart Society, or alternatively, you can pop a question into the Q&A here, and we'll either respond to that or we'll follow up with any responses. Okay, so I would now like to welcome our guest speaker. Culture Central were a really important partner within the grant scheme, and many of you will know them, but some of you might not. And Charlene is part of the Culture Central team, and she's going to just talk about how some insights, an introduction to Culture Central, and some strategies about how you can make the most of your grants. So I am going to now stop sharing my presentation, hand over to Charlene, and welcome Charlene Carter-James to present.
Hi everyone. Congratulations on securing your CPD grant. As Jeff mentioned earlier, it was a very competitive grant, and you are all here because you had a really outstanding application and it really spoke to the development needs of the sector. So I'm Charlene, I'm the Partnerships and Development Manager at Culture Central. Some of you may be familiar with Culture Central, but for those of you who are new to us, Culture Central is a sector support organisation, originally started out as a membership organisation with some of the largest cultural organisations in Birmingham wanted to work more collaboratively, to look at how ways we can like drive investment and be more accessible and inclusive. And then we've since widened out our membership to include all aspects of the cultural ecology. We are also an Arts Council investment principal support organisation, which we fondly call an IPSO. And again, that's around Culture Central supporting the sector with Arts Council's investment principles. So that's things around dynamism, relevance, ambition, being more inclusive, and cultural innovation. So all of that good stuff. So today, I was asked by Smarter Society to kind of look at the best ways for you to kind of maximize the impact of your grant. And I was asked to speak on, things around training development opportunities, planning for long-term impact, community engagement, partnerships, and leveraging those existing resources. And, I was thinking about it and I was like, well, actually, without being like a shameless advertiser of Culture Central, I could do a whole signposting piece and, say, give you a list of slides with like websites and stuff that you could go to. But I actually think that the reason why you're all here is because you're all really proactive around your development needs. And I think a lot of that probably could be found on a Google search. However, just looking at anyone at all aspects and all stages of their career, I would like to say that Culture Central is probably a little bit of a resource hub for all of those things. So a really good first port of call when it comes to like accessing resources, opportunities, and information around the sector. So I'm going to share my screen. I was going to, I didn't really think this through. So I've got my talking points. I'm going to share my screen and I'm just going to really kind of quickly work with you to, let me see. Just to navigate the Culture Central website in the first instance. And I'll just kind of like reiterate some of the relationship that we have with Smarter Society and the West Midlands Combined Authority. And our role within this was really around making sure that, the grant program was like inclusive and accessible to traditionally excluded groups, to organizations, community organizations, and just fully across the board. And that aligns with some of our work that we do around equity and opportunity and capacity building and cultural innovation. So we do a lot of activities around all of that, and we use our collaborations and partnerships to basically empower organizations and creators to be ambitious and be dynamic about what they're doing. And this kind of ties in with this kind of CPD grant that you've all received. So what I want you to do is, whilst I'm going to navigate this website, I want you to think of Culture Central as a little bit of a one-stop shop for kind of information around culture and creativity to an extent, but I'll talk a little bit more around that as we move on. So one of the things that I think is really important is about engaging with the sector, engaging with culture, engaging with creative industries. And engagement is really important because that's the best way to be visible. That's the best way to connect. That's the best way to collaborate. So one of the things that we do as a collective, we like to partner with the sector. We like to partner with creatives and organizations, and we are a little bit of a kind of middleman. So as you can see on our website, we are the collective voice for the West Midlands. And what we do is we convene, challenge and connect and create opportunities for people and the places within the region. So if you can see my screen, I'm just going to scroll down and show you like a little bit around like what we do and what we're about. And although some of you may be familiar with us, I think sometimes not a lot of people understand like the work that we do, because we are a strategic organization. We don't necessarily commission, or we don't, administer grants or anything like that. We work a lot in partnership with the cultural ecology and the creative industries as well. So this website is probably a really good port of call in terms of understanding the work that we do. So first and foremost, I'm just going to say it straight off the bat, that one of the easiest ways to engage with us is to just become a member. So I'm gonna show you a little bit about like the whole idea around being a member. Like, as you can see on our website, there's a little bit of an introduction from our chief exec, Erica Love. And there's different forms of memberships that you can have, and they don't all cost. So for example, we have an affiliate membership, which is a free option for those of you who like have come across us, seen what we're about, see the work that we do, and like align with our values and principles. And that way you can just stay connected with us. We can send you information. We have a really amazing newsletter, which gives you, I'll tell you a little bit more about our newsletter a little bit later on, but it gives you all of the opportunities around funding, call outs, commissions, opportunities, sector news. But it is very, like, you can get that information, across different channels. However, what Culture Central is really good at is like bringing the stuff that's happening in the region. So it's very, very place specific. So we also have an individual membership, which is, centered, for individual artists and creatives and freelancers, whatever type of work that you do within the cultural and creative industry. So we have an individual membership, and we have an organizational member as well. So if you're an organization, again, your membership is calculated based on your annual income, and it's around being within those spaces where you can connect and network with different types of people. And we also have a partnership, a partner membership as well, which is for any organizations that are adjacent to culture and creative industry. So I mentioned the word cultural ecology a lot. So when we think about a cultural ecology and an ecosystem, it isn't just made up of creatives and artists and art organizations. It's made up of lots of different stakeholders, funders, universities, local authorities. So we have a lot of members based on people who sit around and adjacent to culture and creative industries. So I'll just click on our members here, and I'll just give you a little bit of an insight into some of the members that we have. So if you scroll through here, we've got everything from large to small organizations, to universities, to local authorities. And we also have a list of individuals that we member, and this is not an exhaustive list. This is just based on where we're at. We're constantly getting members signing up all the time, and we probably just don't have the capacity to update our website as frequently. But we have quite an extensive members list, which is all part of a massive network. And we convene these groups regularly to discuss what's happening in the sector, discuss how we can work. And most of our work is centered around advocacy. It's centered around like connection, and it's actually around promoting like the work that you're all doing. So see membership as a little bit of an opportunity to join a network. However, this might not be relevant to you. Becoming a member, you might say, well, actually, I'm quite familiar with Culture Central. I can dip in and out of what you do. And absolutely, you can do that. And the ways that you can do that is by engaging with some of our programs. So again, in terms of opportunities, we have a number of different programs and strands of work that support the idea of career professional development. So again, it's around like convening some of those groups and understanding like where you fit in within that cultural ecology and the creative ecology, if you like. So again, some of our current programs, the partnership that we've got with Smarter Society and the Combined Authority. We have our inclusive network again, which is absolutely free to join. And even if you're not a member, you can be part of the network, which kind of is a strand and a activity based within itself. So you can understand like a little bit around navigating the sector. We understand that people from traditionally excluded groups, small organizations, tend to not have the same opportunities and access to things that the sector has to offer. And the inclusive network challenges a lot of that. And I really wanted to, talk about any of you that are on your CPD journey that want to move into a strategic space. And I wanted to discuss just a little bit around our West Midlands crew. So our West Midlands Cultural Response Unit was something that it kind of formed around COVID. It was a little bit pre-pandemic, during pandemic and post-pandemic, and really the things around the crew was about actually responding and bringing the sector together and troubleshooting some of the things that are happening regionally. And it is around building resilience, and like kind of that strategic planning that I think the sector needs to be engaged with. And sometimes we have this idea that the kind of strategy behind culture and creatives lies with large organizations or decision makers and funders. And actually the power lies within you. So what we try to do is we bring those people together, and there is no hierarchy. We've got everyone from, funders, local authorities, to individual artists, chief execs. So there's no hierarchy in the crew. And it's an opportunity to be around the table and have your voices heard. So when you think about your CPD and you're thinking about your journey, is that a journey of leadership? Is that a journey of change? Is that a journey of actually, I just want my organization to be more connected within the sector? The crew is probably a really great place to kind of start, and anyone again can join the crew. I'm going to show you some of the work that we've done, and like if you check out our website, you can see some of our activities that we've had around. We look at things around actually what are the development needs of the sector in general, not just for individuals or organizations. So we've kind of pulled together some like key information, and we have guest speakers at every crew meeting. We've had things around like, securing your IP. We've looked at the Birmingham funding cuts and the budget spend, and, we look at, how do we navigate and troubleshoot all of the things, and preempt some of these crises that are about to. We don't want to be like scurrying around and, waiting to a crisis point before we have a plan of action. We're actually trying to plan and have an action and preempt some of these things happening now. So, it's really easy to get involved. You just do the form, drop an email to us, and that is really about being strategic in approach to, the work that you're doing and your development needs. So I'm going to move on to like some of our other development programs outside of the crew, which you could probably tap into. Again, you've got your grant funding now. A lot of these opportunities are free, but they lead on to other things. So and again, it's about kind of understanding what your development needs are, and using Culture Central as that kind of first port of call. So the network is, around you don't know who you don't know. So, if you engage with a network and you complete some of the activities, you might think, actually, this is a really good organization I need to connect with. We have a mentoring program called Grow, and that is around, actually connecting like people and organizations and individuals to, a little bit of the sector giving back, essentially. That's what we're trying to do with the Grow program. And it's really important that, as we move on as a sector, that we're working more collaboratively, and we're sharing some of that capacity, and we're knowledge exchanging. So it's really easy to become part of Grow. You don't have to be a member to have a mentor. We can connect you, we can match you. You just fill out the form, and our programs officer Charlie will do a little bit of matchmaking. It could be anyone from a chief exec to somebody who works in marketing and finance. The idea is that we connect you with people that can develop you. Or if you want to become a mentor, if you're at a stage where you actually think you are in a position to give back, you can become a mentor. And there's a training package involved with this. So if you wanted to become a mentor, there is a training, it is a trained position, and you'll work with some of the, some of our amazing consultants that we work with, that will train you up to be an effective and impactful mentor. But again, just have a think about where you are and where you want to fit in within the sector. And that's about like thinking about your kind of long-term development needs as well. Like when we think about mentoring, like there's reverse mentoring, as a mentor, you can learn a lot from your mentee, and you can continue that relationship long term and feedback all of the things that you've learned to the wider sector, to your organization, to your colleagues, to the people that you work with and collaborate with. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of like some of the programs that we do, and some of the programs that we've had. We've got, we work really closely with West Midlands chairs, so all of the chairs within the West Midlands of organisations. We have a chairs forum, so if you're a trustee or a chair of an organization and you feel like this is a space where you would like to be a part of, we convene that group. We have our leadership program collective. Again, that is around like kind of dismantling the idea of what we think of leadership. Everyone in my eyes is a leader within their own right. And our leadership is in different ways. Our leadership could be actually physically being out there on the front line and like really advocating for change, or you could be a thought leader and you could be out there, documenting the work that you do and telling people about it and like influencing change and influencing policy. Some of our previous projects around Birmingham Legacy was looking at kind of the kind of legacy outcomes of the games and looking at how we develop audiences, how we are working with diverse artists and diverse audiences, looking at heritage and how we can be more creative with heritage. So there's lots of ways you can engage with Culture Central. So there's a little bit of something for everyone. And then opportunities to be like volunteers. And we've got access to a lot of data sets as well. We work really closely with universities. We're currently doing things around a charter for equity, workforce strategy, audience research. So if there's anything that you need to tap into through Culture Central that will add value to the work that you're doing or will demonstrate some of the impact of the work that you're doing, there's an opportunity there for that. And I also just wanted to bring you on to our YouTube channel. Again, there's a lot of useful resources there. All of our crew sessions have all been recorded. So if you're new and you haven't joined and you haven't been able to go, they're all there and available for you to watch, which are really, really useful tools, really key information that you could use. And that's kind of indirect engagement, if you like. We have all of our information around Radical Listening Week. So if you're an organization and you want to understand the sector and want to be more accessible and inclusive in your practice, this is a really useful playlist to watch as well. And we have our convene webinars as well. This is from a previous program. So there's a lot of like things around producing, placemaking. There's things around diversifying your funding opportunities, all of those things, which are really good first ports of call if you're struggling and you just want those first steps. And like I said, it's at all stages and all levels of your career. And it will really elevate some of your growth pathways as well. So I think it's really important that that's like, you tap into some of these resources and be proactive about it. As we move on, I'm going to stop sharing my screen just because I don't want to exhaust you. But I know some of you in the creative industries are probably thinking, oh, it's all a bit culture heavy, what's in it for me? Actually, like there's a little bit of something, like I mentioned, again, cultural ecology and organizations and industries that are adjacent that we work really closely with. So ask us about some of the partnership work that we do with local authorities. Ask us about like some of the work that we do with some of our partners. So for example, I'm currently working with Create Central to and I developed their outreach engagement strategy around getting more diversity into TV and film. And they have a skills accelerator program that they're currently running, and it's a cohort. It's a roll on, roll off type cohort, I believe. And you know, there's opportunities there within the screen industry. So that covers things like TV, film, gaming. Um, we also have a relationship with United by 2022, which is our legacy charity of the games, and they do a lot of things around social value. They do a lot of work around actually working with community organizations, and anyone who's in that kind of socially engaged practice, that community grassroots space, you know, we can connect you with United by. If and even like if you're already familiar with United by, you know, we understand that, you know, when it comes to things around legacy, there's a little bit of a shelf life, but they have some really, really useful resources on their website, on their YouTube channels, on their platforms. So really do try and connect with them. But also as well, just in terms of their pool and bank of volunteers, if you need capacity, within the work that you do, there's opportunities there. So just think whilst you're doing your development and you're thinking about the next steps for your career or next steps for your organization, think about some of those key people that you need to connect with that, you know, can really support the work that you're doing. So again, some of our other partners will be like Steam House, BCU Steam House. So for example, if there's tech issues, if you want to develop new ways of working and be really innovative with your artistic practice, you know, ask us to connect, use the space, have us go through our members and just say to us, we can broker some of those partnerships essentially. So just drop us a line and say, you know what, I'm really interested in the work that this organization does or this artist does. Would you mind just doing an e-introduction? That's sometimes it just starts with a coffee or a quick Teams call. You don't have to, like, you know, throw in like a whole one-pager outline of everything that you're doing. Sometimes it's just like, hey, tell me a little bit more about what you're doing. So I'm going to stop sharing just because I want to talk to some of the things around reflecting on your CPD journey and some of the considerations around that. So what I really think is key is when you're looking at your kind of CPD journey is really looking at it from a strategic point of view, from a strategic mindset. Think about long-term sustainable planning. And I think the ways that we do that is about how we reflect. I think the reasons why you were able to secure this grant in the first place is because you were able to articulate what your development needs are. However, learning and development is an ongoing thing. Once you've done this, it doesn't just stop there. What it is actually going to do is open up your horizons. And it's a whole can of worms, guys. Like the more you learn, the more you realize what you don't know, the more you realize who you don't know. And it's probably around like kind of logging or documenting what it is that you're actually doing, holding yourself accountable, being proactive, you know. So when I say like logging and documenting, you're all creatives in the room. Be creative if that's like journaling or writing up, doing a blog post or doing TikTok videos, share it amongst yourselves. You all are in a cohort of people who are on a development journey together on the same timeline. If you knowledge exchange and share and network, actually that's a really good way to hold yourself accountable and identifying what your next development needs are, because it's not going to end here. Just because you've got that software or just because you've done that training course, that's not it. Like actually you're going to realize, actually my next step strategically is to do X, Y, and Z. So think about how you know, you reflect upon that, set key milestones, do some action planning, you know, and then that way you can be really intentional and make better decisions about your development needs. There is absolutely nothing worse than being caught up and sitting down on the training course and you really realizing, or some kind of webinar or some kind of, you know, training activity, and you're like, I know this already. Like you can actually, you know, once you know what you need, you can be like more, you can tailor what your next steps are basically, and you can be more intentional about that. But also tap into the Culture Central resources. Like I said, Culture Central, one-stop shop, first port of call at whatever level or whatever stage you are at. Engage with us. We are a small team. There is literally the equivalent of 4.5 full-time equivalents of us, but we work really hard to engage with the sector. So if that's dropping me an email, or dropping Anthony an email, look at like what we do, and like see like where you fit in, and that doesn't have to be to me. Members, you have access to all of the team, so you'll have access to Erica, you'll have access to Anthony, and whatever it is that your needs are in that moment in time, we can give you some tailored advice, some strategic advice, some, advice around funding opportunities, like use us as a little bit of a kind of soundboarding, like a health check to see where you're at if necessary. And just the importance of those like building partnerships and collaborations. Again, you're in a room full of people, like use the opportunity next week to meet with the other grantees, share what you're learning, and your development might be an opportunity, somebody else's development. So you might be able to say, actually, this training course program was really, really good, or this program that I'm using now has changed the game in the way I create. All of that, like you need to optimize those opportunities to network, because really when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, what happens in the sector is that that is your cultural capital. Your networks is the people who it's not necessarily your talent or your education or whatever. It's actually who and you need to leverage some of those potential collaborations, and please use us to do that. And look at the combined authority, look at your local authorities as well, see what's happening there, see how they can support you, because that's their job, essentially. But we really need to like think more long term, more sustainably about what we're doing. So all of the resources that are there is around you actively engaging with it. Like we can spoon feed you as many web links and send you across as many like websites and opportunities, but essentially you're the one who has to click on that link and do the work and do the reading and investigate for yourself. But if we can support you in making that a little bit more accessible, then please, please feel free. But again, explore some of the opportunities that we have to offer. We have an amazing newsletter that comes out every Tuesday, again, that has funding opportunities. And it's also an opportunity for you to send in the work that you do, and any opportunities that you have for other people. It's a partnership. Culture Central positions itself not as some kind of like top down, like we're kind of telling the sector what to do. We work collaboratively with you. We see you as creatives, as individuals, as organizations, as partners, not as we're not the authorities. We're not the authority on anything. We partner with you. So partner with us. Tell us if there's an opportunity for us to develop, absolutely tell us, and we will aim to engage and work with you. So I'm just saying that just some like key takeaways in terms of like what my little bit here is around actually really being engaged with your industries, that cross-sector collaboration, that these unusual partnerships, like accessing research data may be the next step in your development, because you want to understand what the data is around some of the work that you do or your practice, and then look at where you fit in. Are you impacted by where you live? Do you live in like a rural area? Like, how does the whole cultural infrastructure, the creative infrastructure affect you? What are the development needs there? So really think about it broadly, really think about it as an ecosystem, as an ecology, and then that way you'll be able to figure it out. But again, just use Culture Central as that kind of sounding board, as that first step to navigating and understanding the sector. So I think That's probably a little bit about me. I think maybe the only final call to action is, at the very, very least, on the basic of levels, is just to sign up to the newsletter. That's the easiest thing you can do. And that way, every Tuesday, it is a long newsletter, but that's because it's packed full of information. So I would say crack on with that in the first port of call. Have a snoop around our website and our platforms, see what we're about. If you like us, if we're aligned, then please join us and let's work together to make the sector a little bit more dynamic and ambitious. And it really does start with you and the CPD grant. So congratulations again, and I'll hand back over to Jeff.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, Charlene. And I think Charlene is a real advocate of of Culture Central, but for a really good reason. And just kind of drawing out a few things from what she talked about. Getting access to future funding initiatives. That's something that I think is a real benefit from kind of being linked up with Culture Central. But I think more importantly that there are a number of examples of individuals and small organisations that have worked with Culture Central, that have gone through some of the mentoring and training programs and have gone from delivering as an artist and moving into more leadership type roles. And I think that anyone that aspires to be a leader within the arts and culture sector, then I think that this is a really great forum to do that. And I think that really, if you want to find stuff out, across the area, then they're a really brilliant organisation to be involved in. So a big thank you to Charlene. Charlene will be attending the event next week along with other Culture Central people. So that's a really good opportunity to go and have a chat with them, to talk about some of the programs, to find out a little bit about things like the Grow program, where you get access to mentoring, to find out a little bit about some of the partnerships that they've got with other organisations. So that's a really, really good benefit to come down and do that. So thank you very much indeed, Charlene. Right, I'm going to just run through a few more bits before we close. Just also to note, anyone that there's been a couple of questions about asking about whether the webinar is going to be shared afterwards, and so yes, it will be. It's being recorded. We'll have a transcript on there, so that allows you to be able to do that. And obviously, anything that Charlene's talked about with regards to Culture Central, go and have a look on their website, and you can find that. If you put Culture Central into Google, then you will be taken through to that. So there's the details. Oh yeah, there's the web address for Culture Central. So yeah, and any links that are in here, we will send that out to all of the grant award winners after this. So you don't need to frantically write that down. It will be sent to you through on your email. So other support initiatives that are worth considering. So obviously this grant was awarded to you through the West Midlands Combined Authority. So if you want to take a look at the websites, it's wmca.org, and then you can get through to the culture and digital section, and that's got all of the programs, any upcoming projects, events, any further funding opportunities. That is the place to look for them, and so you'll be able to take a look at that. We will also send that link out. And then obviously, finally, we want to just make sure that you've got the 14th of November, next Thursday, in your diary. So the networking event is at Birmingham Open Media, which is right next door to Birmingham New Street. We will send out the registration link on Eventbrite, so you can access that and you can book your tickets. It's free of charge. And so that's an opportunity to come and meet some members of the team. If you've got questions, we can answer them. If you've got suggestions, then we would love to hear them. And it's also going to be an opportunity. We're going to be asking you some questions, and we'll be really interested to get your feedback. So please register for that, and we look forward to seeing all of you at that event. And so we are now going to move into our Q&A session. And we've had some Q&As come through, which I will run through. But if you have got any queries, or if you've got any further questions that you think of, send an email through to wmca@smartersociety.org. Okay, we respond to all emails really quickly. So if you haven't had a response, then send the email again. You can also contact us on our socials. So we're on LinkedIn and Twitter. So you can send information through to us. Okay, so just running through a few of the questions. So I think that there are a few questions associated with the expenditure reports, which we will go through now, and I'll try and just access those. We'll also send out a summary of the answers as well. So first question is about how you attach your receipts. So the way that we would suggest to do that would be that if you take a photograph of those, and then you can just save those onto your computer or your phone, and then you can just add them to the email that you send to us, and that's all you need to do with it. Okay, so somebody's asked about, so if I have spent something that is under £100, but combined together they equal over £100, do I need to provide that? So no, you don't know. So a receipt is just needed for an individual expense over £100. So if, for example, you bought a piece of equipment that's £120, you must provide a receipt. If you bought 3 pieces of equipment and each piece of equipment was £50, but that totaled £150, you do not need to provide receipts for that equipment. Okay, so that's the principle. If an individual expense is over 100, then you need to provide a receipt for it. And so the question is, where do you send expenditure reports and the spreadsheet? You need to send that over to WMCA@smartersociety.org. If possible, please, can you send that as one pack? So if you're sending us lots of emails of individual receipts and not all at the same time, that's going to take us a lot longer to work through, and that's going to delay the payment of your final payment, your final 20%. So the best way to do it is to collect it all together, collect your expenditure report, send it across to us, and then we can do that. And also, we will obviously be sending out the link to the evaluation survey, so get that completed as soon as possible. Okay, so they were the kind of key questions about the expenditure report. So if you have any further questions about that, then drop us an email. The only other thing was a question about Culture Central and specifically about the mentoring program. So what we suggest about that is that you drop an email over to Culture Central, contact them through their website, contact them through their socials. You can just drop them an email through LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter, and then they'll be able to tell you all the details about that. And there's loads of information on their website, so we can cover that off. Okay, good. Right. So without further ado, what I'd like to first say is to say a really big thank you to Charlene. I really enjoyed listening about that, and I think she's kind of highlighted some of the programs and some of the opportunities that that you've got to grasp with two hands with these sorts of things. She's absolutely spot on that. Your CPD and your journey is driven by you. I think that one of the reasons why you were probably picked is really that would have come through in your grant application. So I think take these opportunities and just go for it, because the sky's the limit with these sorts of things. And if you chat with the Culture Central team, they'll be able to show examples of artists and who have developed their practice and who have taken opportunities on, who are now taking on some really exciting leadership roles, and that development process is something that they've owned, that they've taken forward, and with some of the opportunities that are available. So the sky is the limit for those. I'd also like to thank you guys, and I'm looking forward, hopefully, to meeting as many of you as possible at the event on Thursday next week. And then if you have any further questions, drop us an email or let us know. Other than that, I'd like to thank you for attending, and we will look forward to seeing you next Thursday. Thank you.